guys, Oily here, and Mouse Toes is here. Frank, I'm not sure if he's having computer issues or what, and Hawaii Volcano Squad, you know how that is. He'll probably be late. And Squib is unable to join us this evening, so that's just kind of how it is. But
Oh,
we appreciate all of you coming in.
That would be the rookie. Excuse me. The ad came, and now it unmuted me. My sincere apology.
That's okay. Anyway, today we are talking about making an emergency preparedness plan. So my number one thing is that you need to assess your personal risks for your area. Is your area prone to floods, grass fires, tornado, ice storms, blackouts? Do you live near a nuclear facility or other facility that has hazardous chemicals or components? These are what we must begin planning for immediately. What things are your highest risk? You're not going to start off prepping, planning for aliens kind of come and invade. Or something like an invasion from another country or something like that. You're planning for things that are the most likely to happen to you in your area. Let's see. And when you make a plan for each of these situations, now it's going to be different depending on your situation. Like for us, we have wildfires. If there's wildfires coming our way, well, we're going to grab some stuff and we're going to be heading out. We're going to grab our go bags and a few things, and we're going to be heading out the door. We're not going to stick around and burn in our house. I mean, preps are not going to do any good if we're dead. So you're going to make a plan for each situation. And then you're going to put all these plans on paper. You don't want them on your computer where if something happens to it, they're gone. You can put them on there and you can save them, but you need to print them out or write them down in a notebook. And it doesn't have to be fancy, but just put it in an emergency preparedness binder or a notebook or all together in a folder, something like that, where it's all handy and where everybody in your household knows where it's at. Hi, Sandy's. Hi, Jaton. Moms.
Solar.
Everybody else Solar, yes. Everybody that's out there, Squib, that has not said hi even. I know there's Mindy's there and Curious Yellow. Yeah. So anyway, welcome. So that's kind of my take on, before you can write out a plan, you have to assess your risk for your area. Got anything to add on that, Mouse?
Well, I might have a thing or two. Let me think for just a minute. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've got it. I reckon I know some stuff. I liked what you were saying. Okay. It's like your particular area. And when you talked about wildfires, you have the high winds and wildfires. And that's the one thing, like, I'm not bugging out far, people. I'm 60 years old. Okay, I don't even look good with my Alice pack on my back. It can't hold much because I'm 100 years old. I'm planning on going as far as down the stairs from my 12-foot elevated house and under this big tree, or just hiding from the FEMA van when it works its way through my neighborhood. But the most important thing to me that's in that regarding having to get out, and this was learned after Katrina, is do you have your insurance papers? If you own that house, there's a plat that comes in your closing papers. After Moore, Oklahoma, where is my street? Remember, how do you prove that this is where my house was? So just copies, not my originals. I'm bringing copies, just like a copy of my wind, hail, and flood insurance, my car insurance, because I'll be walking, not driving, right? Exactly. So if it's wiped away, just to have those things close. But that's what we prepare for, is those local issues, like the October 2015 aquapocalypse, 24 inches over the whole state. For 10 days, we couldn't leave our driveway. We was eating good. We was fine because I'm a mad canner, but I also had to have a way to prepare that food and get it hot. So I like that for local things. But, aliens could invade, and you do have to be honest about that, Oily.
Well, it could be illegal aliens, you know.
That's true. That's true. But thank God I'm in South Carolina, not Arizona. But it could be them little funny green men, and they were just kind of screwed. But I mean, I don't really want to get probed, but we have to accept that that could happen. I have no preparation for that, and I'm not fixing to get any because that just is what it is. I don't need a good probe. You know, you go to jail, you get a proper frisk and all that. Been there, done that. I'm good. So I'll just be shooting myself if I can't take the alien out. So I'm not getting probed. Bottom line.
Welcome, BC Truck Rebuild, Repair, Repurpose. Welcome. And we said hi to everybody except for, I think, also Faith Abounds at Melody Acres also. So hi to you.
BC would be the MacGyver of YouTube. Okay, we need to recognize what we got going. 1 second.
Gotta kiss the love goodnight. Night, Vern.
Yeah. Night, Vern, Oily says. Says, night, Oily.
Okay, once we'll go into detail on some things to add into your plan or to be thinking about. But think about it. Also, you know, planning for each situation. Plan whether you're going to stay at home or if you're going to leave. Some people call it bugging out. If you're going to leave your area during something that you see coming, like a wildfire or whatever it may be. And then you're going to put that, like I said, into your binder and be sure to go over your plan. What good is it to go over a family plan if you don't involve the family? You know, if you just make it all up yourself and put it in a binder and nobody ever looks at it or goes over that and refreshes their memory of what needs to be done, it doesn't do any good. So make sure even some of the youngest know. Like my granddaughter Chelsea, I tell her, if there's a fire, if something bad happens at our house where we can't stay there, the first place we're going to go is out to the barn because it's near our house. But like if the house catches on fire or something like that, she can go to the barn. If it's too dangerous to go to the barn, then she knows to go across the road, watching for traffic, go across the road to Uncle Danny's house because it's just across the highway. But first, we're going to see if it's safe to go to the barn. If it's safe to go to the barn, we're going to the barn first, you know. But for children, just someplace that is familiar to them, that is close. You're not going to want to tell them we're going to meet 7 miles south of here because they're not going to understand it, and they're probably not going to be able to know how to get there. So if you stay put, this is, you know, the main thing we're going to focus on tonight. But here we go. What items will you need if you do stay put? Of course, it depends on each situation, but most items, in most of the general items, are going to be the same, and they fit in a lot of those categories we talked about: 3 seconds without air, 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food kind of scenario. Remembering the rules of 3, you can assess your urgent needs. 3 minutes without air would be the first thing. So depending on the emergency, your air quality may or may not be affected. But if it is, do you have masks? Do you have, if you're going to stay in place, do you have ways to cover your vents, your windows, your doorways if you need to? Say you live near a nuclear facility or near a chemical plant or something, and you're kind of out of the major radius where you're not going to bug out, but you still need to make sure your air quality isn't compromised. Things like that. Do you have anything to add on that part, Mouse?
Yes, mine is the same. We're right down the marsh from the Beaufort Navy nuclear plant here on the coast of South Carolina. So yeah. Listen, homegirl got her plastic, her duct tape. I'm ready with that. And to me, that's a big part of home preparedness. Is I am right on, you know, it's a shallow tidal creek, but high winds. What if I can't get to Lowe's? We would have loved to have beautiful Pella windows, but our concern was what happens when one breaks and we're waiting 7 weeks to order a replacement. So we got your standard vinyl double-paned windows. But in the meantime, I need to be able to put plastic over that to keep rain out of my house. I don't need to get mold going. I'm already in a wet, moldy, salty environment. and having things like that on hand for what could happen. How do I attach that plastic? Do I have a plan for that? Same thing with blackout curtains, because we have battery backup. There's only a house across the marsh from us, but if somebody was going by in a boat further down and I didn't have dark curtains that I can put up, I don't have them up, would they see that I'm the only light, right, with solar backup, and would, you stand out like a baby Ruth in a punch bowl, so that's not a good thing. But just having those type things, radiation tablets. I don't really want to live through the radiation thing, but I might give it a minute. So just kind of having those. But how do I secure my house from whatever's coming? And another thing, we have big tarps, and enough that we could cover our whole roof if we had to. Because think about it, heavy winds, big storm, shingles ripped off. Now I've got a dripping roof. What if they're over my batteries?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that kind of ties into the next part, which is the 3 hours without shelter in inclement weather. If you're staying put, then your shelter's probably in decent shape. But like Mouse said, sometimes, what if the roads are impassable and something comes through, like an ice storm or whatever, and then the wind blows tiles back, and then it's raining, or it's starting to melt and it's leaking. So you need things to make sure your shelter is in good working order, or at least have something to do some quick repairs, temporary repairs, until you can fix it correctly after the whole situation has passed.
I got something there real quick, and we've said this back in your oily chat, is if you are a woman and you are with a man who doesn't have a toolbox, who doesn't have a tool belt, who does not know how to drive a wrench, who doesn't know the difference between a roofing nail and a brad, what you have is a girlfriend. Odds are he has clear nail polish. Dump him now. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm married to a man who is almost up there with BC truck. Okay? He can do things. I ain't getting on the roof. I don't even look good on a ladder. Okay? And it's one thing if the girl can do it, but I can't carry my husband 6 foot behind down the stairs. Okay? So both of you need some skills. I can't do what my husband does, but he can't do what I can. He doesn't have a uterus. He can't multitask and do all these kind of things. But get some skills. Home Depot gives classes like Carpentry 100, basic plumbing. Hello, I have my own septic tank. What if it backs up? My husband needs to know things, and he learned them. We built it and he watched. Okay, so he's got the little screwy thing. We're not getting a big piece of equipment, but if you ain't got a man, get one, because he's going to be a load.
Well, and not just that, but women need to learn some basic skills as well. Learn how to use a drill, learn how to do some basic plumbing and things like that. Have some books on hand to also help with something like that, in case get some books that kind of give you a step-by-step in the event that something happens and you haven't actually attained that skill yet. At least you have that information in paper so that you can look it up.
Yes, just like we're on a well and it froze because we were inexperienced with the connection to our reverse osmosis system.
Oh,
that happened one time. Then my husband had our well digger come out. He took him step by step. My husband took pictures. We've both run it on how do we cut off the RO. He built this elaborate insulated box. The next big freeze, nothing happened because he mastered it. So we learned from that one error, but we hadn't had a well with a RO system before, and that was our weak link. So yeah, if both of you learn, but dump a man, identify a man sometimes as a girlfriend and go, listen, he was fun when times was good. Now he's got to go. And get a new one. There's plenty of them out there. And listen, I'm in South Carolina. Rednecks grow on trees. Rednecks, we're going to be the shining stars when the poop hits the fan. Just be honest with yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So if you're staying in your home, some things to consider. if you don't have a fireplace, how are you going to heat your home? If it's like a winter storm that you're preparing for, an ice storm that you're preparing for, or something else that comes along during the winter when it's freezing cold, say the electric goes out for whatever reason, blackouts or whatever happens, you need to be thinking about everything you normally do with power without power now, okay? So you need to think about, okay, if you do have a fireplace, do you actually have wood cut and prepared months in advance so it's drying out so it'll be ready to burn if you need to? Even though you mainly rely on your central heat and air, you may need to use that wood fireplace. Is it cleaned out? Is it, have you had it chimney sweeped or whatever needs to be done? Have all of that prepared in advance in the season before the upcoming season. That way, when it is time, something freak storm comes through. Like there's been several times that we've had storms that were supposed to go north of us or south of us and end up hitting us dead on. The last couple of hours it changed course, and here we are. And nobody saw it coming. So
it's like people from Michigan go, "Well, I didn't know that was going to happen, eh?" And you're like, "Well, just it can move." But yeah, that's very good advice on having the wood, dry wood. And listen, when you see a man hack wood apart, that's how a lot of children were born. Okay, because when a man starts swinging an axe, you're like, "Hey, okay." But yeah, and then he needs to build a little shed to have it covered. So there's all kind of bonuses. I do not chop wood because I have trouble not letting go of the axe. My husband got me a little hand hatchet because I'm dangerous,
Exactly. Hey,
But
Hawaii.
I got a man who could do it. And if something happened to him, like I said, rednecks grow on trees. I'd get another one, show him my wood pile, and go make it happen. And if he couldn't, next. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I wanted to say hi to Living Frugal and Prepping. He's kind of a newer channel on YouTube. He has some great information on there. I think the Oklahoma Prepper mentioned him last week. He has a Facebook page also. He's from Oklahoma. He's an awesome fella, really nice guy. And Dan's Urban Survival and Prepping also, welcome. And I think I said Mindy Patriot Angle also, but I wanted to make sure that you. Guess who's here, Mouse?
Hidden new method here.
And Kancey's out there too. Hi, Kancey. Welcome, everyone.
I need to add all these new prepper channels to my list of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, because when I was in the hospital recovering, the recovery hospital Pacific, I just like binge watch prepping videos in the hospital bed because there's nothing else to do. So never enough prepping channels.
True.
Exactly.
Very true. And glad you're here, Hawaii. Good to see you.
Okay.
Yeah. So
yes, Hawaii.
So
made it. Just please watch your mouth, please.
Bad boy, bad boy.
Oh yeah.
I love you though.
Oh,
I love you though. Hi, Desert Pioneer. Okay, real quick. Let me finish this paragraph because I put some good stuff in here. So, do you have your fireplace ready to use, enough wood cut and dried to have ready? Do you have proper clothing and gear like gloves and coveralls and things like that to carry that wood in, even though you normally don't use your wood fireplace? You got to be thinking of stuff like that, because if you're having to carry it in, you don't want to freeze your tushy off while doing it or get splinters like I hate getting because it hurts because they're delicate.
Yep.
You have extra blankets in the event that the central air is out and you don't have a generator or a wood fireplace. Make sure you're also considering people that would come over in those plans. Like, do you have adult children and grandchildren that would come and stay with you, or friends down the road, or siblings that live down the road, or a parent or a child that, whoever would come and stay with you? You need to account for them also. Okay, if you do have a generator and it's gas, then do you have enough fuel for it? If you keep that fuel, is it good fuel? Did you forget to put stabilizer in it? You want to make sure that if you do refill those, that you have stabilizer. you have a plan to shut off utilities if you need to, if a major event happens? Do you know how to, do you even know where the shutoffs are to shut off those utilities if you need to? Do you have the proper tools to do that? Like a wrench to shut off a main or something like that. Oh, thank you, Cansey. He said he likes my hairdo. Let's see. If you heat your home with propane, do you keep enough on hand to ensure you will not run out in the middle of a storm or an emergency? Water bottles, I've showed this once, are great. Just make sure if it's little kids, you don't want to put a hot water bottle near a little baby because they can't tell you if they're getting too hot. Like, you know, just like a heat pad, they can't tell you if they're overheating. They can't tell you if they're getting burned. Their skin's more sensitive. Also, elderly people who cannot communicate something like that, you need to be aware their skin's thinner. So keep that in mind. And also, since the hot water bottles have a little screw cap on them, like somebody like Chelsea's age, I wouldn't necessarily put a hot water bottle next to her unless I'm sleeping there with her and I can keep an eye on her, because she could unscrew that and that boiling hot water would end up going on her, and that would not be good. Anything to add on as far as the home? We're gonna go over water and food and a host of other stuff, but the water and the food was part of the three, so
regarding the hot water, remember last week you showed you got some more for your first aid of burn gel and stuff, because we will be, you know, if we're working outside at a fire, as I would be in my case, or using a stove tech, you know, burns could be more likely. And the other is good sturdy shoes. Like I have these fabulous fit flops, right, with a steel shank arch support, and they're perfect for working on your feet, but my toes is naked. That is not a good thing when I'm standing there at a stove tech outside with little twigs in it and little hot embers falling around. So to me,
that's so true.
Good sturdy shoes and thicker socks, because our feet are going to get sweaty.
We lived in a different location, but we can't burn our trash here because we're surrounded by love grass, and it's flammable even when it's green. So the oil content in it is so strong. So we can't burn our trash here. But at the other place we could, and so we had a trash barrel. We'd burn our trash. It had a grate over it, but an ember flew up, hit the grass, and it was just kind of one of those seasons where it was just starting to green, but it wasn't quite green. Yep. And it started going. Guess what I had on my feet? Flip-flops. So even though it was like, it would be easy for it to be in control, I could have run out there and just stomped on it and got it out. I had to stop. I had to change shoes. Then I had to run out there and stomp it out, and it got bigger by then. I mean, it didn't take long for that thing to, and it was going straight towards our neighbors, which had a little trailer over there. So that was very scary. Yes. And so wearing proper shoe wear, or at least having it on hand, is very important. Very important.
And BC made a good point. He said Louisiana, where I grew up. And now I'm in South Carolina. And the inside folks who live to sit under that air conditioning vent, right? These are the people who are not going to make it, because when there's no air conditioning. And
I will.
Yeah, once I have to have my windows open and the no-see-ums are making their way through my screen, and I'm having to, and that's another thing, lots and lots of bug spray. Because when you're not used to it, and they're actually in your house then, right? So just to have those things, but sturdy shoes is no joke, you know, and being able to pace yourself. Remember in the old days, they took a nap in the hottest part of the afternoon, right? And that'll be the difference. We'll be getting up earlier to do those things. We'll be napping or sitting in the shade in the hottest parts of the day, and then finishing up as the sun's going down. So a lot of things will change, but our clothes we wear.
I actually have a plan for no air conditioning.
What's your plan?
Well, I live in a top floor unit at a condo, and we had a big homeowners board fight about putting insulation on the roof, which I lost. So my plan is to go downstairs, throw out one of the board members out of their condo, tell them to get off the property, and never ever come back and live in their house, because I can't live up here without air conditioning.
Good plan.
That's my plan. Throw them out.
Faith Abounds at Melody Acres said you could heat some dry rice and just not have it super hot. Heat dry rice and put it in a sock and tie it off, and you have that for the littler ones.
You see, the whole thing that we're talking about is you have to have. It's like that line from The Hunt for Red October with Sean Connery, that movie where he says, where it was actually Fred Thompson, the U.S. congressman or senator, or whatever he was.
Right.
A Russian don't take a dump, son, without a plan. What's his plan? So you have to have a plan, even if it's a bad plan. Like, my roof is like 180 degrees. I can't live without an air conditioner. So yeah, I have to throw somebody. If the AC goes off for an extended period of time, I don't mean like an hour. I mean for a day, or I'm assuming there's no rule of law, and then I'm the law. So I'll have to take over a downstairs unit because I cannot live in an upstairs unit. So
right.
Literally, so it's maybe a bad plan, but it's my only plan. At least I have one.
And like Oily said, to have a plan that people know. Like Chelsea's too little, but I think I've said this before. I went to school in New Orleans, Louisiana, okay, near a levee. We were all preppers back then. We all knew we lived in a bowl. And I had to do about every 3 months a run through the bayou where I was supposed to go to the meet point with my daddy. Okay, so once that school let out, I had to take off. Now, little did I know, my Uncle Franklin's in there watching me, my neighbor across the street, their kids did it on different days. So it didn't matter if the school said, we're all going this way, my job was to run. So even being in second grade, I knew where the heck I was supposed to go to meet up with my family, and that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Mindy wants to know if you're Wilson in that hat, because all we see is your hat.
Oh, well, yeah. Don't you like my roof? I mean, you always get to see the roof.
It's pretty fly. Mm-hmm.
I like it. The other thing is when you're evaluating, people and they want to join your prepping group, you have to evaluate if their family is, going to be, prepared, or if there is going to just be like a lead weight tied to your ankle. Because if they've got aunties and uncles that are going to be showing up who are just completely unprepared, and a bunch of kids who aren't prepared or going to be completely useless, and maybe there's only one semi-prepper in the group, then you've got to like say, I'm sorry, you can't join our prepping group because you're not, we can't take a load of unprepared people on. It'll sap all of our resources and we'll all die together. So
let me tell you my experience with prepping group. I tried it. First one, not so good. Second one was great. And then a young family came, and we were all going to meet at the range, and they brought a new person. They wanted to join our group, went against all our rules, and he was a very young ATF agent, totally blew up our group. Never, ever again in my life will I do one, ever. Never, ever. My God, you bring the wolf essentially into our camp, because we were teaching each other how to can, how to dehydrate. We had outstanding monthly meetings, but I have learned, because that's what'll happen. They're going to bring their creepy Uncle Joe or their brother Billy, and I'm going to have to pop a cap in them, and I'm just really not in the mood. So I am never, ever, ever doing a damn group again, because it only takes one to get stupid and destroy you. They exposed
us. Never say never. I mean, because
I just said it out loud.
It's going to have to. Well, if this. You have a lot better chance if you can form a group. And I'm not saying it's easy. I don't personally work well in groups, but
I'm shocked.
It's like something you have to, there's just more power with more people, especially if they're all preppers and prepared, but it's just a question of, finding the right people.
Now, that depends on where you live, because we have relocated ourselves to where we're in an area where the average age is 70. I mean, my neighbors are going to be dying off, on about the 15th day when they can't get their digitalis, right? Their heart medication, but they're self-sufficient people, and I can defend myself here. But yeah, I'll never ever try to do that group thing again, because it's too creepy. See, oh my God, BC says there's one member in his group and he's a jerk. See there, BC's rolling. Yeah. But
go.
Yeah, but when we were in a different place, we thought we needed a group, and then it was like, yeah, no. I'm just gonna pop a cap, and anybody makes it up my driveway.
And faith abounds at Melody Acres is right. Not a single person anywhere near them is prepared for anything. They go to the store daily. It's beyond scary. Exactly. Yes. I mean, there are people that think, oh, I want the freshest food, so I'm going to go to the market every single day on my way home from work. Well, that's fine and dandy, but you better have something put in your home for if there's a major emergency, and some things we'll get to in a minute. And like we talked about last week on the food layers, you don't have to have a refrigeration for. So right. You better be thinking about that. If you're watching and you're new to prepping, you don't want to count on those markets, because within a lot of times, for sure, by 3 days, the market shelves are gone.
72 hours. Yep.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
We're closer than you think.
Get around here sooner than that.
The world is on, economically a lot closer to the edge than it appears by, unless you look very carefully. There's just, China's got this huge debt problem that they may start a war with North Korea just to distract their own people from their own credit market disaster that's like bubble that's looming over there, and
well, yeah, knows? I mean, they've set up a false in China. They've set up this whole false economical system anyways to make it look like their economy was doing great. They built whole cities and
they're empty, ghost cities.
They're empty malls, brand new malls. 10 years ago that are still sitting empty. It's just so it looked like they were economically booming. So
and they have this giant credit bubble that they spent all this money to do that, and it's coming due. And people in China, they want to, in case nobody noticed today, Bitcoin broke through the $1,600 per coin. It used to be pennies, and that's because it's this digital cryptocurrency. In case you don't know what it is, that everybody is everybody in China today, like they made some new rules in Japan to make it easy for Japanese people to buy Bitcoin, and their fiat currencies are, it's the whole Japanese economy has just been dead, a zombie economy since I don't know what, 1980 or something, and they've got aging population, and it's just a gigantic, huge problem over there. And so they all want to get out of the Japanese yen and into Bitcoin. And so if China actually allows its people to buy Bitcoin, easily, then 1 billion people are going to take all their assets and buy Bitcoin, and it's going to go through everybody's leaving fiat currencies, and it's just it's the world is a lot closer to some of these events potentially happening.
Major economical disasters coming on.
Yeah, and the stores being closed, and you having to fend for yourself without the grid up. I mean, I like the grid up. I don't want the grid to go down, but I don't have controls over whether the grid stays up or goes down. So, you have to have some kind of plan, a good plan, bad plan, but make a plan, for everything. All your, that covers all your prepping, from defense to, because if there's no emergency services response, then you're the new sheriff in town. There's a new sheriff in town, and it's you.
Yeah, exactly. And, there were government people going around and taking people's weapons from them.
In Katrina.
A lot of them still have not had them returned to them. So that's a pretty horrible thing. Okay, and so, that's something we've discussed, is some stashes for some security items. We'll put it that way. Okay, now let's talk about water. Mouse Toes, you want to talk about water? We have the 3 days without water rule, so.
I just got a new water filter, the military version of the Frontier. It's like a water filter that can stick on a hydration bladder or on a bottle, and it's got 3 pre-filters, and I think it's each of those, it's good for 50 gallons. and it wasn't that expensive. So it's just I've got layers and layers of water filtration.
And that's exactly right. I mean, we need to not just rly on one thing, because what if something happens and it takes longer than expected for them to get electric back up or things like that. And
the one thing I don't have for water preparation that's been on my list is a still. I mean, I've got the British pure hydration system that the British military uses. I've got I've got one that plugs into the hydration bladder inline filter. I've got bottle filter, and that one is the pure hydration one. It's from the UK. It's a little more expensive, but it's one that the British military uses, been approved by the London School of Tropical Medicine or whatever. And I've got a bunch of Sawyer filters that are very inexpensive. And boy, I can't remember.
Sanitation?
What about what?
Sanitation, like just washing yourself up and stuff. If you can't take a bath,
I've got
wash yourself up.
I've got those. I've got which is for pandemic and all. I've got those extra bottles of those big that the hand cleaners that they sell alcohol based. Yeah. Well, the different brand. It's the Walmart one. I think it's called Germex or something that they sell at Walmart. So
you're gonna wash your hoo-hoo with Purell?
Not a good idea, brother.
Well, my hands.
Okay, so yeah, he kind of covered most of it, especially like the drinking water and like hand sanitation. Purell's awesome to help in some ways. And then Mouse Toes, what do you got on the
Okay, on Purell, hang on. On Purell, you have to be very careful. If you put that on your hands and then you use a lighter, and this happens on a lot of plants and a lot of construction places, you will catch your fanny on fire. That stuff is terrible. It dries your hands out so bad. I've got rain barrels that I'm going to use to flush my toilet because we have our own septic. But the other thing is just easy ways to purify it. I'm not getting a still because we're on salt water. We're just going to do the little thing with a hot water tea kettle, the little spiral of a copper thing.
Right.
My goal is to never have to do that. Yeah, I'm just talking about a tiny one, not a big one. But that's not a still. It's just a little turdy thing. But our thing is to have enough on hand, and we get enough rain to be able to use that to purify. But that Purell on some of my husband's construction jobs, they outlawed anyone using that, and that's how many people caught themselves on fire from that stuff. Isn't that wild? So I'd worry about that being out either working on my stove tech or out at a fireplace. You know what I mean? It just scares me.
Well, you have to know what you're doing. I mean, at all times, try not immolating yourself. The one that the Walmart sells is hand moisturizer and has the alcohol to kill bacteria in it.
Oh, so, hang on one second. I like what Faith just says. She's got spray bottles, part water, part Castile, and she uses it for cleanups too.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's, I didn't think of that being able to spritz. Go ahead, Oily, I'm sorry.
So the recommendation is at least 1 gallon of water per person to drink per day.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you account for everybody that is coming to your home too in certain scenarios. And then you want at least 1 gallon for sanitation purposes per person per day. I mean, you could go, that's just general, like washing your hands, washing a rag with some of your whatever kind of soap you use, and giving yourself basically what I call a spit bath. You're just taking a rag and washing yourself up.
Yeah, I used to live that way.
You want at least that. Wet wipes, you can find wet wipes that are chemical free or toxin free, whatever you want to call them. Depends on your mindset on all of that. But wet wipes aren't good just for babies. They're good for people too. You got to also think about sanitary stuff for your babies. You get women, if you still have the monthly visitor, you need to be thinking about having all of that extra stuff on hand and how to keep yourself clean in that situation.
You need a plan for the water going off and you not being able to use the toilet. You have to have a plan to go outside.
I ended up teaching both of my brother-in-law's families how to gravity flush a toilet because we were all on septics. And so I told them, you just take the bucket and you go in there and you pour the water in. And we all have water tanks or horse tanks or cow tanks out at our house. So we just go out there and dip in that, bring it in, pour it down the toilet. Of course, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So if it's urinating in there, there's no need to flush it unless it just like really reeks. After a while, sometimes that happens. Keep a trash can by your toilet so that you're throwing the toilet paper into the trash can instead of to the toilet, so it's not clogging it. And, you know, again, if they do number 2, then take and gravity flush it. So those are all ideas to be thinking about as far as water. And water filtration, do you have some areas around you that you do end up running out of your stored water? We recommend, you know, keeping at least probably 10 days worth of water on hand. You know, most emergencies pass within that amount of time, not saying all of them, like an EMP or something like that. You know, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, but if you don't want to store lots of water and cycle it out, then just at least have some big water containers. They have the Reliance ones that are BPA free at Walmart or Ace Hardware. You know, like will sell the smaller like bottle things. You know, not the full size, but the smaller ones with a handle. And have a few containers that you could fill up really quick if there's an emergency.
One of my 3 preps for everybody out in the side chat there, you can tell us, or if you're watching this after we've gone off of air, put in the comment section your 3 things that you've done this week for prepping. One of mine was to acquire a Berkey filter, a big Berkey. Yes, it has the stand, it has the stainless steel spigot and everything, so it's on its way. I've been wanting one of those for quite a while, and that was my one prepping splurge for a while. my big splurge, you know.
Yeah, that's a good
great one. I store some water just in milk jug gallons because we have a 90-gallon tank for fresh water, and then we top that off. It's all RO water anyway, but it is something to have instead of waiting till you get an expensive container. If nothing else, just save some milk jugs, but just have it there, because just what you were saying, you need a gallon just to drink. You'll be flabbergasted how much water you use, how much more difficult it is to wash your dishes, do the little shower thing. Yes, very surprising.
Personal. That's not including dishes or laundry or things like that.
Yeah, something you can do while the grid's still up, especially if you're like doing bachelor living. If you're a bachelor, do bachelor living. Keep all your flipping dishes clean all the time. Don't let them pile up, because if the water goes off, you're gonna have a problem. You may as well just throw them away.
You're gonna lose your man card on that. Okay, men, aren't y'all supposed to not do dishes till the whole sink is full?
I know.
You know, or there's a mouse on the top. I mean, isn't that your sign?
Or fungus growing on there.
Yes, or the smell gets so bad, you know, the smoke alarm goes off and the CO.
Without going, ooh.
Yeah.
Basically it became a prepping thing where I just, you know, I have to keep my dishes clean now. It's for being preparedness. Falls under preparedness. You know. My
God, you're getting better looking all the time. Good Lord.
Well, I don't know. I can chop wood just in case anybody's interested.
Okay, just in case any of the side women are wondering.
I have an axe too.
Okay. Cansey says our trick for cleaning is to make a strong cedar tea for cleaning and scraping and processing the bark in a sponge and scrubbing with that. It's an old Indian trick. Awesome.
I have also the gigantic container of Simple Green.
Awesome. Well, I have essential oils. I can throw some few drops of thieves in my dishwater, and it'll kill most every bacteria out there. So it's as good as bleach, 99.9% of bacteria out there, so bacteria and viruses. So
bleach does have a limited lifespan.
Yeah, it does. But you could get the pool shock if you needed to have on hand, and it lasts a lot longer.
That's another thing I might have to do if it's a fan, is just raid the pool shock from the condo pools where they keep it in the condo pool area.
Now, BC did a video on this, I think. Pretty sure it was BC Truck, but I know this from having a swimming pool in a garage. Even if you get it in the small 1-pound packages or you get it in the big 10-pound bucket, you will smell that pool shock and it will begin to rust everything around it out in your garage. That stuff is not good. Okay, because you will smell it even through the sealed container, like you never opened, the 10-gallon bucket. I mean, granted, it was great from a swimming pool, okay, but it will just cause serious problems. And if you say you had to store it inside, in Hawaii's case, it'd be 2 weeks before you're going, I got to get the stuff out of my house because it smells like heavy bleach. So that stuff scares me a little bit, but I'm kind of a weenie. But once you mix that a couple times and use a big witch's spoon and pour it around the edges of your...
It comes under the category of just raid the just scavenge it from the condo supply shack.
Yeah, but don't leave any extra in your house.
Okay. Yeah, and the filters do filter out chlorine. There's most good decent filters will filter out that charcoal filter out.
And if you can't afford a Berkey, do what we did with the 2 food grade buckets, and then you get 2 ceramic filters. And because I'm married to a man and not a damn girlfriend, he drilled the holes, sets the ceramic, and then of course we got like 40 ceramic filters. Now that is one slow darn drip, okay, but it will work. You know what I mean? We'd always have to be adding new to it. Yeah. It's sort of the knuckle dragging. Hang on, of water purification, but we got to have another backup. You know what I mean?
Yeah, distilling is still the best option, I think. If you can figure out how to set up a still, which is knowledge and or the only problem I've had looking at pre-made ones is that those are all made in America, and so they cost like a small fortune compared to, like, if you go to Walmart and buy two pots that were made in China, and then you just need the part to catch the water in between that's kind of like almost custom made to fit the 2 pots. So find a somebody who can work with a metal worker who can build you something transform 2 pots to make it still. Either that or pay the $400 or whatever they charge for those survival stills or that they sell on the internet. But those are like a great idea. It's just too expensive. It's kind of like somehow it's against my principles to pay. Even though it's not really against my principles because they're made in America, but it kind of is to pay. If you got my shopping principles, if you can find 2 pots for $20 each and that were made in China, and figure out how to make a still out of that instead of paying $400 or $500 for.
Okay, excuse me a second. It was BC who had the experience with the pool shock and said it rusted a package of the tub of dollar store lighters he had in the same room. See, I hated having that stuff when I had a pool, and I liked better when I got a saltwater pool, but I still had to have pool shock for once every 2 weeks. So yeah, it was definitely that. And you ever hear canners talk about using pickle crisp? It's a type of thing, and I'm like, I don't need a crisp dill pickle, okay? I mean, they don't turn to mush, but I'm like, look at what the heck that ingredient is, and it's just as bad as pool shock. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't. What is? You don't know what it is? I've heard of it, but I've never used it, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's a chlor something. I'm not smart enough, but I don't touch it because I read up on it and I was like, yeah, I don't need pickle crisp, because if we're canning to know what we're eating, why do I want to put a darn chemical in it? You know what I mean?
No kidding. Who wants to do that?
Mm-hmm.
let's move on to food real quick, and then I think we'll have to stop there and continue this discussion next week. So, on the food, of course, the thing is 3 weeks without food. Well, you don't want to have to, that doesn't mean you're going to be very happy come the end of 3 weeks. You don't want to not have food for 3 weeks. If you could survive it, but, we recommend at least 10 days worth of food, so that allowing time for whatever emergency to pass, if you're staying home.
It's really helpful, to watch those survival shows. Like you see actually what happens to those people after, like Naked and Afraid, after 3 weeks or longer without food, exactly how much weight they lose and how critical protein is. So like,
and how weak they become.
Just you could get it prepped a little just by going to Costco and buying a few packages of protein bars. That it's so much better than nothing.
Yep, you're right.
And Kenzie asks, what's everyone's favorite food items for storage? I want a variety. I don't want to be eating the same thing every stinking day, several times a day. I do have rice.
Jack Daniels.
Hey, I have some brandy that I keep on hand for toothaches and stuff.
Darn Skippy.
I'm not a drinker really, but I do keep it on hand for medicinal purposes. If somebody's in a lot of pain and I need to get them, like where something that I have with my oils is not working well enough, I do have it. But I keep a variety of things that I normally eat in freeze-dried or dried form. And that way I have it. I can make some of our favorite meals with that. I'm working now on just using those items, like practicing with them, so I'm not using too much or not knowing what I'm doing whenever something major happens. We use bell peppers that have been freeze-dried or dehydrated in our foods and things like that, and onions and potatoes and all kinds of stuff.
Mine is meats that I can. It's like, okay, in case of fire, I'll be shoving like 4 jars, some steak tips, some chicken, some ground meat, and then some chicken on the bone in my underwears trying to run out the house, but I'm going to make my way out with some of them.
Yeah. I've got to can some more stuff because we've used up all my canned chicken that I did not very long ago. So
tell me it wasn't scary. Now, when I canned my first meat by my lonesome, it took me about 3 days. I set the jar on the island, and my husband said, we have to eat it. And I thought, should we both eat it? He says, do you want to die alone if it's bad? So we both ate it, and we lived. But were you not scared the first time you ate your first jar, Oily?
I really wasn't. I researched it quite a bit and made sure I followed everything protocol, and so I was confident in it. I even ate some in like a chicken salad, so it was cold. It wasn't.
Yeah, good for you.
So I was pretty proud, and that was some good chicken, let me tell you.
Yeah. I haven't gotten into canning yet. I just buy Campbell's Chunky Soup and tuna fish canned, or corned beef hash or something like that. And I throw it into my stores and, stack it with Mountain House and, several layers of different types of stuff.
Right. Well, the good thing about canning is you are controlling every single thing that goes into your product. Same way with dehydrating your own stuff. You control what goes in there. You know what's in there. It's not some crazy big old long words that you can't hardly pronounce and would never be able to spell on your own if somebody asked you how to spell it. That makes it nice.
Monodisodium gluconate or something like that.
Yeah,
right.
Like that. But, okay, now we're talking about food, but what happens if the electric's out? Do you have an electric stove? Do you have a propane stove? If you have a propane stove, do you keep enough propane on hand to where if a major emergency happened, you wouldn't have to worry about heating your home or whatever and cooking? You may not be able to do both depending on what your propane is specifically used for.
Rain.
I got a
I missed your
butane.
So, make sure you have that fuel on hand and make sure everything's in proper working order. Check it at least a couple of times a year. Make sure everything's working properly. Even if you have something like a camp stove. Mouse Toes, you have a favorite stove that you like that's...
My little stove tech that you put little twigs at the bottom. I got a crush on that thing.
It's a love story.
It is, and it just takes little twigs, and then I've cooked several times to practice with it. You know what I mean? Like a stew, or sauteing onions, because you can really regulate the heat. And it's just because we don't have big logs around here, that we need, but we have a buttload of twigs. It's almost tender like, and like Mindy's saying, a sun oven. It's a rocket stove is what it is. So the same thing, but it's just a brand. And Rain has her stove tech and loves it. See, a lot of girls got a crush on the stove tech. It's just what it is.
Maybe something I have to get, but I do have a propane cooking stove, and it does have electric. Like, I can't use the oven part of it, but I can use the stovetop. I also have a wood-burning fireplace, and it's got the wide lip on it where you can actually cook on top of that if you need to. So nice. I have that as well. We have a propane grill outside that we can use. We have a Traeger grill that we can use. And, just got to make sure we keep paying for that as well. And Zero says he loves his hobo stove.
Yeah, and see, but you at least have a plan.
Yeah. I mean, I have plenty of ways. And, like, if you don't plan on anything but cooking on a camp stove, say it's not a nice storm, say it's, decent weather where you can cook outside on a camp stove, well, do you know how to start a fire? Do you have the stuff to start the fire? Do you have everything you need for that? Do you have some wood put back if that would be your alternative cooking method? Do you have a grate and something to sit your pots and pans on? Do you have things that will work on an actual fire? You know what I mean? Some just like
Teflon coated skillet does not.
That bad, you just got one of those neoprene or whatever that Nalgene bottles, but you can't purify in that. So, I mean,
BC wants a Traeger. BC wants a Traeger, so he's got a crush on a Traeger.
Oh, we love our Traeger. We love it. Just make sure you only use, if you get one BC, make sure you only use the Traeger pellets in it. Some of the others will ruin that sucker, so make sure. Well, anything else on the food, guys? Make sure it's stuff that don't have to be refrigerated. Make sure that it's stuff that you like to eat. Storing that you like to eat. You don't want to store a bunch of stuff that you wouldn't eat normally. And make sure you have stuff, according to what your dietary needs are. Say you've got somebody that's diabetic that can't have a lot of sugary stuff or a lot of high carb stuff. You got to think about all of that stuff whenever you're planning your menu, and make sure you have enough back for, I would say, at least 10 days, 2 weeks, so that most emergency situations should pass by then. I'm not saying all of them. And learn how to do things like we talked about last week, like foraging, finding what edibles in your area are good. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be there and available for every season, but at least you can know what's available each season, things like that. So, anybody got anything else to add on that? I think we'll pick up from this point next week.
Yeah, mine was basically food, money, water, and cash. Having cash and small bills. And of course you need to save like the big one behind you. But yeah, I think we covered it.
Yeah, I still have a whole page.
What's that page?
A whole other page on just other things to think about when you're bugging in, when you're staying in during some sort of emergency situation.
And the external focused on what you said, which was know how to cook on those things, have the cast iron or whatever, and just for grins, go out and cook your meal on it. You look at people's bug out bag and everything's in the package. For God's sake, open it. You're going to go throw that stuff in the woods, when you're trying. And
it takes you in your bag anyway if you get them out of the packages. I mean, if you don't know how to use something, quit worrying about the instructions. You need to take those instructions and learn how to use that before an event comes up and you're like not thinking clearly. You know, if you're practiced, it's just like doctors and nurses doing CPR in emergency situations. They practice those things so that when the event comes up, they will know, and it'll be muscle memory, you know?
Yes, that's the word.
And they'll be thinking clearly. So, okay, my 3 preps real quick are the filter. I planted all my fruit trees, and I acquired some kinesiology tape to have because that's great for supporting those tendons and things like if you get pulled muscles or tendons. So I acquired that this week. And there was something else, but I can't remember it now. I'm still working on organizing my preps. So.
I joined a community garden, and on Tuesday they have what's called Grunt Tuesday. You go out and you work this garden. It's part of the Department of Natural Resources. And they've planted rows of corn and tomatoes, and we had squash coming in. I just made squash casserole from it, and the other thing, transplanted some greenhouse tomatoes in the garden, and then my husband made sure all our irrigation drip from our rain barrels will be dripping on where we've put our new plants, and that's just sort of a every year season. You know, you got to duct tape or electrical tape up your old holes, add some new ones, because like we said, I'm hungry and I like to eat food. So if anything happens, I got my community garden and then I got my own. Go ahead. Hawaii, sorry.
I got I'm not sure even how to pronounce it. I got a couple of Fresnel lenses to add to my gear. For those 4 times magnifiers, just another way to start a fire. To add to all my other ways of starting fires that I have. Let's see, I got that Frontier Pro water filter, so that I added that to my Camelback Mule bag, so because it basically plugs onto the end of the hydration tube, and it's like a filter that's pretty good. And that's pretty much my preps. Father's Day's coming up. My dad wanted me to get him a pocket knife, so I'm going to buy him a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And he's got a birthday and it's Father's Day's coming up. So you could buy your, anybody, my recommendation is buy it for Father's Day. Buy him a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. He wanted me to get him a pocket knife, so I'm getting him one of these.
Nice.
And that's Super Steel S30V.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
But Spyderco makes great stuff. And I don't know. Was I supposed to have 3 preps?
Every week we're supposed to have 3 preps, but that's okay.
Yeah, I only got 2.
That's your goal for next week, 3 preps. All right. Well, everyone, it's time to wrap it up. I try to keep it at an hour. I mean, we could just keep going on with this discussion because there's just so much to being prepared, to think about, you know, and there may be things that we say that don't necessarily pertain to you or your area or whatever, but there may be some things that you hadn't thought of yet. So it's good to be a part of the conversation, to be a part of the side chat. I'm so thankful for each one of you that came through. Hi, Paper Tiger. I'm excited for each of you that came. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to come and be a part of this. And we love you, and thank you so much for all you do. The Oklahoma Prepper did text me back a while ago and said he's stuck at work and he's really sorry. And he couldn't come. And the Squib had something going on where he couldn't join us this week either. So we really missed both of them. And when y'all watch later, we missed you. So anyway, well, thanks so much, and I appreciate it. Thank you to my moderators. Appreciate it. Thank you. God bless. Bye.
Bye.